Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. I've got a lot to talk about going on in the Big Ten. It's the Power Rankings episode for Week 15. The regular season is in the books, and we are going to release our Power Rankings for the final part of the season. Who we think did the best and who we think did the worst this season. Zach is not having a great day after the Ohio State loss. Zach has decided to rank Ohio State 10-2. Ohio State 18th behind 1 and 11. Well, I guess not 1 and 11 yet. Soon to be 1 and 11. Purdue after this Indiana game. Zach, we'll go to you first. What's your thinking here with Ohio State 18th?
So clearly they're not the 18th best team in the Big Ten. I this is a symbolic ranking because I think this is the worst choke job I've seen in Ohio State history. And I think kudos to Michigan. They exploited Ohio State. But if I see another run up the middle against two first round defensive tackles where you're weak on the offensive line and instead not throwing to potentially three first round wide receivers. Yeah. The whole game was an abysmal. We talked about it pre-show, coaching malpractice, from time management to special teams to some of the defensive calls. I mean, they were lucky that they had Davis Warren throwing the ball, because if not, this would have been 2 or 3 scores. So
Yeah,
Purdue,
I almost tweeted multiple times in this game. Like, if you're thankful for anything as an Ohio State fan, you are thankful of Davis Warren being the quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines
yep.
right now, because he 67 yards, 9 for 16 in this game. It was not a great day for him, but
Yeah.
fortunately for Michigan, Will Howard, he didn't have much better of a day. He had more yards and a better completion percentage, but I don't know what's the completion percentage there, but his completion percentage wasn't much better if it was better. So yeah, I mean, Ohio State stayed in the game, but it wasn't anything by their own doing on offense. It was the defense helping them out and some poor offense by Michigan. Now, Kent, you have kept Ohio State up there at number 2, still ahead of Penn State and Indiana. What's your thinking with having Ohio State so high?
I just started laughing because someone in the chat just said they think they're starting to think Purdue's going to lose this game. That's such a funny comment right now. My thinking is that I really wanted to move Ohio State down because today's performance was really bad. Like, it was bad. That's a bad Michigan team, and they just lost to them at home. That should not happen, obviously. But I just can't justify putting anyone in front of them. Like, I see you have Penn State in front of them. They beat Penn State. So I couldn't put Penn State in front. They beat Indiana, right? So, like, I couldn't put Indiana in front. Obviously, Illinois, couldn't put them in front either. So, like, I just felt like the season that they've had 2 losses. They were both really close games. They had opportunities to win both of them. And I still think that it's hard to say this right now after today's game, but I still think that they're talented enough to be the second best team. And on neutral fields, even though Michigan just beat them at home, I still favor Ohio State over the teams that I have below them. It's hard to say that after today, but it's 2 losses and it's by a combined 4 points. So that's not the worst in the world. I mean, against Michigan, I guess is bad, but still a good team though. Really good team.
Yeah,
I can't justify putting anyone in front of them is my short answer.
Stop being logical, Kent. We don't do logic on this show.
I went ahead and put Penn State over Ohio State, even though Ohio State beat Penn State at home. I thought about the game. I thought about everything that happened. I said, you know what? If Ohio State is going to give up that kind of field position and they're going to miss field goals like that, like if Jaden Fielding had the day that he had today against Penn State might have won that game. And so you look at it when Ohio State is relying so much on a field goal kicker that has been inconsistent throughout his career. this is what you get, right? I mean, you have got to find some more consistency on offense. It looked like they had found that with Will Howard and what he was doing, but obviously it's not there. So that was the big game to talk about. I'm sure we might have some more people bring it up in the chat, but we will go to the chat and see who is here and what everybody is thinking, and maybe let that guide us in what we talk about for the rest of our power rankings.
I got a quick question for Zach, if I could.
Okay,
if
go
I could
ahead.
ask Zach a quick question.
Go for it.
Where would you realistically put Ohio State then? Because like obviously you did that as like you're mad at them today, and it was symbolic, as you said.
Yeah.
Where would you actually put them then?
Probably somewhere between 2 and 4. Like I think realistically, you can't drop them. Like you can't drop them below 4. And I think at their top end, they're still the most talented team in the Big Ten, and they've beaten Penn State and Indiana. So I think I'd probably go 2 or 3. I think you guys kind of have it right on. Today I can't do that. Not after what I witnessed, and I think the history of it. So
yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know. I don't have many more words for it. Dave says, I'm not an Ohio State fan or a Michigan fan, but I'm going to say this. If you don't want Michigan to plant your flag on the field, don't let them win the game. Couldn't agree more, Dave. Looks pretty soft to try and fight after the game. Maybe you should do some more fighting during the game. That's just me, though. I see a lot of people saying they're proud of it. I'm not very proud of the team when they have to do their fighting after the game. Do your fighting during the game. That's what I say. My lowly Gophers played a complete game, couple plays away from a great season. They look pretty good, boys. They look pretty good against Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin looked pretty bad. I'm not going to, put Wisconsin up there on a pedestal and say they were anything great, but Minnesota was able to win that game, even though Wisconsin was favored. I don't know why Wisconsin was favored in that game. It seemed pretty obvious that Minnesota was the better team to me, but obviously Vegas had an issue in this one. Kent, how much higher did you move Minnesota up in your rankings? I'm forgetting where you had them before. I moved them up quite a bit.
I'd have to go back and let me look at last week. So last week I had them at 9. So I only moved them up 1 spot, but that's because I had Michigan jump them. Well, Michigan was ahead of them last week, I guess. Who did I have jump them? I don't know. I guess I didn't have anybody jump them. They just moved up 1 spot, and I put Washington behind them. That's what it was.
Okay.
I just switched them in Washington.
Okay.
So I mean, Minnesota, absolutely. They played awesome this week, and they played a couple of really good games. And here at the end of the year, and they've been playing well. But again, I don't think that they're worthy of being in front of any of the teams that I have in front of them.
That makes sense. Zach, did you move them up very high, Minnesota?
I think I bumped them up 1. Although I was pretty I think I had them 8th last week and I have them 7th. It was tough because I felt like it was hard to know where to put Michigan after this game. And so because I had Michigan below Minnesota, and I think I jumped Michigan all the way to 5 for beating the number 2 team in the country at their place. So I think I've either had them jump 1 or I had them stand pat, but I thought Minnesota was, Minnesota's great.
Yeah, I moved Minnesota up. I kind of had a reactionary drop to them last week with the Penn State loss and just kind of believing in them in so many games that they could get it done, and they didn't get it done. Well, and this one they went ahead and they just blew out Wisconsin. So I'll move them up and give them their credit for that. Let's see what other people are saying. Here in the chat, James says, Quack is quacking the quack out of the lane. All right, James. Looks like Oregon's going to win this game. That's why we decided to go early in this one. We're feeling pretty good there. Let's see what our friend PSU Jim has to say. Still shocked at Ohio State today. Why did they keep running directly at Michigan, which is Michigan's strength, instead of using the great receivers? Incredibly stupid. I could not agree more. He also says, as a Penn State fan, I think Ohio State is better than Penn State, but don't forget that Penn State was inside the 5 twice, and the Buckeyes against the Buckeyes and botched it up. They only lost by 7. Not sure how much better the Buckeyes are. That's a good point there, Jim. That's a good point. Let's talk about that decision making for Ohio State really fast, Zach. I think this whole soft thing is getting to Ryan Day's head. I think that Ryan Day is trying to prove that his team is tough, and it's gotten to the point where he is not doing what's best for the team, but he's trying to disprove a narrative, and he is trying to get people off his back, which in turn leads to terrible coaching, in my opinion. And I think that's where a lot of this was coming from. Do you agree, Zach?
Yeah, and I think the play calling is one thing, but I think it's permeated throughout the entire team. Like, I think the way they played, they just played tight. And I think that's there's also other things. Like, I'd heard rumors that Chip Kelly was looking at, like, talking to other coaches at different jobs, so that there's an idea that maybe he was a little distracted. But Chip called an awful game. And I don't know how much that is Ryan Day as much as, Ryan Day deserves all the blame, but
I was going to say, Ryan Day's the one that can tell him, hey, stupid, stop running the ball up the middle.
Throw the ball to Jeremiah Smith.
You've run the ball to the outside with Quinshon Judkins, your power back multiple times. Maybe run the ball to the outside with, I don't know, your speed back, Trevion Henderson. It's just stupid.
Yeah. So I do think there's a lot of, someone made the point, and I thought it was a good point. Even if Ohio State retains Ryan Day, I know you're going to do a video about retaining Ryan Day in at another point. Like, is Ryan Day just broken at this point with Michigan? Because I just don't know if he can.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, like I
answer
just
that right now. Yes, he is.
Yeah, and I think it permeates throughout the entire team.
I totally agree. Now, I do think that the defense, and Fisherman brought it up. He said, and I think he was talking to PSU Jim about being in the red zone. But overall today, I did think the defense was very, very good. I thought the defense did what they needed to do. I think the defense got tired at the end of the game, and that's why you saw Khalil Mullins break off that 20-some yard run there that kind of helped them. And then they did have another stand in the red zone to force another field goal, which was impressive there at the end. But I don't put very much blame on the defense at all for Ohio State in this one. I put all the blame on the play calling of Chip Kelly, on whatever happened with Will Howard. There's rumors that he wasn't cleared to play and all this stuff. I have no idea if that's actually true. I find it hard to believe that Will Howard would be able to talk a doctor out of not letting him play and then putting him back in. I think those doctors, probably are responsible enough to not let him play. But, there's definitely the possibility that maybe he wasn't 100% after that hit that he took that did make him look like he was concussed there. But at the end of the day, like, you got to do what you got to do to win the game. And if Will Howard's throwing interceptions to set up Michigan with great field position on what was that, the 2 or 3 yard line to Amir Hall, and then another one in the red zone on the other side of the field, like, you're going to get what you're going to get. It is what it is. So, Kent, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. The defense, at the beginning, I was more worried about Ohio State's defense because Michigan did put together a couple of decent drives. They didn't capitalize with points on any of them in the first quarter. But yeah, like, they put up the stat, I think, in the third quarter that the 2 scoring drives were like 15 yards or something like that. I mean, the touchdown drive was 6 yards away, 4 yards away. And then the field goal drive that they had was like maybe a yard that they got. So the defense did great. And, that Jack Sawyer gifted interception that he got, like, took away a touchdown right there that at that moment was like the biggest play in the game. So, yeah, I mean, you can't ask the defense to get a stop from the 4 yard line out and get a stop from, 35 yards out for wherever they were when they kicked the field goal. And then also, like, stop them the entire game from scoring. Michigan's offense is bad, but there's still a Big Ten offense. There's still guys out there. There's still dudes that want to go win the game. So, yeah, like, can't ask them to do it for the whole game. So they gave up one field goal drive, basically, in my mind, and that was the last one. And even that one started at, like, what, the 50? Like,
yeah.
55 yards away, maybe. I don't know. Like that was still a punt that wasn't that far away for Michigan to have to drive to go win the game. So, yeah, I thought the defense played great for Ohio State. Unfortunately, I think Michigan's defense, for Ohio State fans, for Michigan fans, this is great. But Ohio State's offense was so bad that Michigan's defense looked even better.
Yeah.
So people don't know. We're if you're watching this after the fact, we are going live during the Indiana and Oregon game, and Indiana just picked off Purdue with 1 minute left. I don't know. Kirk Cignetti might hang 70 on Purdue in this game. I
think I picked that.
And Ryan Walters looks like a scared puppy right now.
But this is what they needed to do, though, because of all the talk about an SEC team possibly coming and taking their spot because they don't have a good win. They heard that all week, so they were like, we're going to go put up as many points as we possibly can. And it's a rivalry game. They're for sure going to try to kill them. I don't blame them at all for this.
No, I don't blame them either. And if you're Kirk Cignetti, you don't care that this is Ryan Walters, because Ryan Walters is probably getting fired at the end of this year or next year. Who knows? I think you're kind of stupid if you're Purdue and you don't fire him, but whatever.
He might get fired on the field tonight.
Might.
For real, I'm dead serious. He might.
Mm-hmm. He might. I see some chat or some conversation in the chat about Ryan Day and his future. I think I said it earlier in the show, but I'm going to do a video on Ryan Day with his future with Ohio State. So if you're wondering my thoughts on if he will be fired or anything like that, go ahead and check that out. I'll probably make it either tonight or tomorrow night. I feel like I'm pretty level-headed tonight, but if I don't feel like I can put together a good non-biased video on it, then I'll wait until tomorrow night. But anyway, and then Oregon is beating Washington now halfway through the fourth quarter. They're winning 42-14. So felt like it was a pretty safe bet we could do the power ranking show now. Yeah. All right, Zach, where should we take this next? So I guess we moved Michigan up. We can talk about them really fast. We moved Michigan up. I moved them up 2 spots in my power rankings. Zach, you've moved them all the way up to 5th. That helps because Ohio State's at 18th. But what's your thoughts on moving Ohio State up, Zach? And then when Zach's done, Kent, you just go ahead and
you mean Michigan?
Michigan, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, they beat the number 2 team in the country on the road, and they did it. I mean, as bad as Ohio State coached, they were down 3 of their top stars, right? Donovan Edwards goes out in the second quarter. Colston Loveland was out. Will Johnson was out. And they still go on the road and beat Ohio State. They finished 7-5. And, I think we forget that despite all their offensive deficiencies, they still have one of the more talented rosters in the conference, which is why I think, some of the SEC conversation has been so frustrating, is because, a lot of people will say, well, the SEC, they're just really, really good from top to bottom. And then, we sit here on a Big Ten channel saying, well, Michigan stinks right now. But the reality is they were stinking it up for a while, but they still had Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham on the roster. Right? They still have just Josiah Stewart. They still have Barham. They still had Hausman. They still had Zeke Barrett. All these guys who they weren't necessarily, not all of them were NFL level guys, but they still had a good chunk of talent on this team. It's just they were playing, I think, other teams in the Big Ten that were also good. Right? I think we talked about Minnesota, who's good. I think Washington has had moments of being good. SC has had moments of being good. I thought they put up a really good fight against Notre Dame today. So I just look at Michigan and I'm like, yeah, it's not, while it's shocking that they beat Ohio State, the reality is, and we said this preseason, Michigan with their talent is still a threat. And I think that particularly their defense. Now, do they still have deficiencies that good coaching will exploit? Yes. But against bad coaching, they'll win.
Yeah. I forgot I was going right after you. My bad, JR. Yeah. They've been playing better towards the end of the year, I guess. I took the Oregon and Indiana games, and I talked about this the last couple of weeks, but the Oregon game at face value, if you just looked at the box score, it looks like Michigan got punked at home was not the case. Like that game was way closer. It was within a possession, like late in the game, and some really bad play calling on Michigan's part. Like basically gave the game to Oregon there late. The Indiana game was completely winnable. Like that we could have been talking about, how shocked we were about Michigan 2 weeks ago when if they could have beat Indiana, but it didn't happen. So we knew Indiana was really good, and Michigan almost went into their house and won a game. It shouldn't be that shocking that they went and did this to Ohio State, even though Ohio State beat Indiana. So, yeah, the last couple of weeks, like putting up as many points as they did against Northwestern. I know Northwestern's pretty bad. The Indiana game, the Oregon game being kind of close, and then all the wins before that. Pretty impressive year still, even though I say that now because like midway through, like I would say after like the first 6 games, we were talking about how bad this team was. They turned it around, I think. Even though this is the national champions. And it's funny to me, I was just thinking about this before we came on the show. So maybe some like banter for you guys to use. Like everyone talks about Ryan Day being born on third base. Like Sharon Moore, like you got a national championship team and you turned it into a 7-5 team. So like, yeah, there's some bragging rights for Michigan today over Ohio State, but like talk about a guy that was born on third base. Like that's him for sure. Am I right?
I mean, I think if you say it about Ryan Day, you have to say it about Sharon Moore as well. I don't really say it about either of them because I still think if you take over a program, then, you have to institute your own culture and you might, have a little bit of what's left over. But I think at the end of the day, like you're still the one out there every single day at practice and you're still the one, instilling the confidence in the guys and stuff like that. So I don't really get into the born on third base. I think it kind of minimizes what a coach does and what the coach does before him. But if you wanted to say that, you would have to give it to both of them. I totally agree. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, like if you're an Ohio State fan, you should be happier with this season than Michigan fans are with their season. But it doesn't feel great to end this way, right? I mean, we were just talking about it earlier. Like, Ohio State fans are furious that they just lost to Michigan for the 4th time in a row, and they're like, our season means nothing, it's over. But then on the other side, you have Michigan fans who are like, yay, we beat Ohio State, this feels great. But our season really isn't really anything. We're 7-5, and, we're going to a bowl game, but there's not a whole lot of else stuff going on. Were you going to say something, Zach?
I was just going to say, I want to tweak my power rankings. I want Ohio State above Purdue. This stat line, no, like, okay, I just looked at the stats for Indy. I'm shifting our focus a little bit.
That's fine.
This is the stat line for Indiana Purdue. Purdue, 67 yards.
67 overall.
5 turnovers and 5 first downs.
That's why I said he's getting fired on the field tonight.
He better be.
Like it's going to be a Herm Edwards situation out there.
That's like I can't put any team below them. I have a little sympathy for Ohio State right now.
Don't worry, I'm saving the new one now, and I will input it in. Zach, don't worry.
You don't need to. I'm just.
No, I'll do it. I'll do it for you, Zach. I'll do it for you.
Still behind Northwestern though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I put Northwestern up in mine. I moved them up. I also realized that I had them behind Maryland. Northwestern destroyed Maryland. So I was
like, we talked about that last week. Zach, I can't believe you still didn't change that, man. Come on.
Yeah.
I just put out a tweet about this, and like I wasn't trying to like start the fire or like stir the pot, whatever you want to call it. But like, I think it's shocking that when we're talking about coaches getting fired, you hear about Ryan Walters, you hear about Ryan Day, which is weird. I just now thought about they have the same first name.
Bad year to be named Ryan, guys.
Yeah, really though. And then no one's talking about Mike Loxley though
but
at all.
He should be fired.
But the replies I got though were that they have like this incredible quarterback coming in and like he's getting one more chance next year. So
I don't understand Maryland fans because every time I have mentioned that Loxley should be fired, they're like, no, like he's improved the program. And I'm like, guys, the expectations that you set preseason never match. Like he is an awful coach.
Yeah.
I
I think the perception was he was winning bowl games and the record was improving each year after 2020, which if you look at 2020, it wasn't all that hard to improve, but they were improving each year. But like you still saw such inconsistent play. I like if you're the administration, like you didn't have a good reason to fire him. Now you do because they are the second worst team probably in all of the Big Ten, third worst. Unless you're Zach and you go ahead and put Ohio State 17th or 18th, which by the way I just had that loaded up, so I'll go ahead and put it in for you, Zach. So you don't have to have the embarrassment of having Ohio State behind Purdue.
They're
go.
close to being the last. By the way, they got that one win against USC, and it was that 1 point win, like the miracle win that they got. And then the other 3 games that they won were all non-conference games against pretty bad teams, unless I didn't follow Virginia the rest of the year, but like it was Villanova, Virginia, and like the school of the blind basically. So they didn't get like they had no really good wins. Like USC was their one good win. And like I said, that was like a miracle. Yeah. So just a really bad year for Maryland, I thought.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I want to go back to a comment really fast. Fisherman says Michigan and Ohio State coaches doxing each other is insane. I saw the Michigan coach dox the Ohio State
Dox or
coach.
Dodge?
He said doxing.
What does that mean?
So the Lamar Woods, the coach for Michigan, posted a screenshot of one of the Ohio State coaches texting one of the recruits, and he didn't get rid of the phone number at the top. And so now everybody on Twitter has the assistant Ohio State coach's phone number, which, I mean, if he wanted to, he could take legal action against Lamar Woods for that. I don't know if he will or not. But with how mad Ohio State fans are right now, you might not want your phone number out there. Just saying.
Wait, so did somebody do it back to him then?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if anybody did it back, but maybe
he's going to the Verizon.
Will let us know. But
he's going to the Verizon store right now.
Yeah,
change my number, change everything.
Hey, there we go, Zach. Look at us. Gus here. He says, hated Ohio State all my life. No worries. I get it. But honestly, I do respect the hell out of you guys for providing objective and fair praise and criticism for all Big Ten teams this season. This show has been great. Gus, we appreciate you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Gus.
so much.
Appreciate
we do
it.
our very best to try and be as objective as we possibly can. Oh, jeez. I didn't see that.
Like Samaj Morgan? Or like a Coach Morgan?
I guess a Coach Morgan. Jeez. Okay. So yeah, an Ohio State coach retweeted Morgan's address. So that must be one of the coaches. Oh boy. Yeah, I replied to that tweet by Lamar Woods, and I was like, dude, take this down. Like, do all the trash talk you want. Like, that's totally fine. I think you should trash talk. If you get the win, but like, don't do that to other people. Like, that's just crazy. Yeah. All right. Other games. We talked about Ohio State, Michigan for almost 30 minutes now. Other games, and Indiana killed Purdue. I know that's what everybody was itching to hear about the entire show.
Yeah.
Lamar
Morgan. I'm sorry. I thought you said LeVar Arrington.
Oh, did I say Lamar Woods? Lamar Morgan.
No. Yeah, that's what you said. LeVar Woods. I just said LeVar Arrington.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's Lamar Morgan. He's the defensive pass game coordinator and defensive backs coach.
Jeez. Mm. Yeah. That is wild. I didn't realize the address was sent out. Sheesh. Fisherman, if it's still out there, will you tag me on it? Just so that way I can see it. If it's not, that's fine too. I get it. But if it is, I appreciate it. Not that I want to see where his address is. I just want to see what the post is.
I do. I want to Zillow his house. I like to do that when I get people's address, like just to see how they're living. Like,
how they're living. John says, is there anything we can say about Purdue aside from they stink? They're losing a lot of recruits. Ryan Walters needs to go as soon as possible. I mean, I do think I do think that the right coach at Purdue could have a respectable program in the Big Ten. I mean, Jeff Brom beat Tennessee in a bowl game, and that was before everybody was opting out of bowl games. Like, I mean, there were still some people opting out at that point, but it was before when everybody was doing it and before the transfer portal went absolutely crazy. So,
yeah.
Jeff Brom he got that program working well it's just Ryan Walters was the complete opposite of Jeff Brom. You brought him in, and it was his very first coaching job. It was just a strange hire from the beginning. But I tend to believe if you bring in the right coach, they could turn it around. I think the turnaround for Purdue at this point looks like at least 3 years before they're 500. I don't think you're going 500 in less than 3 years with Purdue.
Yeah. Well, especially not with how I think the competition in the Big Ten is elevated. Sorry, Ken, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, a week from tomorrow, Mackey Arena is going to be rocking when Maryland comes in for the Big Ten opener. So, like, that's the one nice thing I can say about Purdue.
Nice. Yeah, they got a very good basketball team, so don't worry. We talk much nicer about them on the basketball show than we do the football show.
Yeah.
All right.
I was going to say, I think there's a couple teams that I feel like ended really well and a couple of teams that ended very poorly. So, like, I think Rutgers, Iowa, Minnesota all ended really well. I think you look at Nebraska and Wisconsin and Michigan State. You know,
Rutgers finished 7-5 this season, guys. Like, they finished 4-5 in the Big Ten, but like 7-5 for Rutgers this season after what they had mid-season after that Nebraska game going on with all the injuries. That's pretty impressive. They were able to get to that.
Yeah. Well, and I think Rutgers, I mean, they shellacked the Spartans today. Like, I think it was you actually, Kent, that said that Kyle Monangai was back. Would you tweet that out? That he's but yeah, I mean, for all that they've been through, like, they really should be 8-4. Like, they should have beat Illinois, and they had just a mess in the middle. So I think Rutgers fans might look at the season of what could have been, but for Schiano to go 6-6 and then 7-5 in the regular season, I still think shows a lot about what Greg Schiano's building there.
Yeah. I mean, I think Greg Schiano, even though he had a struggle in the middle of the season, I think he's a good coach. I mean, I've said it multiple times. He's the best coach in Rutgers history in my mind. It's tough, but it is what it is. Guys, we have our third flag planting fight of the day. NC State, North Carolina had theirs. Ohio State, Michigan had theirs, and Florida State just had theirs.
Do
not know the severity of Florida State. They showed a very quick clip of it on Twitter. But I think Ohio State, Michigan won it all. They had pepper spray.
Yeah.
Like,
I just want to say, too,
we should power rank the flag planting fights.
I think that's a good idea. That might be that'd be like a good name for like a podcast, like Plant the Flag.
That'd be good.
Right? Yeah. No, but I was going to say, well, now my brain's going all over the place. I wanted to tag on to what Zach said and add UCLA to that as well, because they dropped a couple games, but I thought, like, as far as like most, I hate you, Sonny. As far as, why would you put that up when I'm in the middle of something?
Sonny just showed his appreciation. I like Sonny's encouragement to the show, you know?
No, I think UCLA, for a team that was like so bad at the beginning, like really turned things around. And I did tweet this out too. Like, Coach Foster got so much crap, like immediately from Big Ten Media Day. Like, that's like his most memorable thing, like his most memorable clip of the year. And he had his guys fighting all season long. And it also made me want to ask you guys, I think at least JR, Zach, yours is split, but Nebraska lost to USC and UCLA. Why are they ahead of them? Or did you not really care about it once you got to that point?
Honestly, once I got to the 9th point, it was kind of like another one of those situations. I mean, I knew I wanted Washington ahead at the bottom half, but from like 11 on down, I was like, okay, which team do I feel the best about?
Okay.
USC this season. I know they beat Nebraska, but I still just feel better about Nebraska overall, especially the 44 points they were able to put up on Wisconsin. The late game, stuff that happened with Iowa. I felt like Nebraska had every opportunity to lose or to win that game, even though they lost it. Maybe I should dig them more for that. And then UCLA, like, I know UCLA has had some good points this season, but guys, they still struggle with Fresno State. Like, I mean, you can't struggle with both Hawaii and Fresno State in the same season.
Fresno State wasn't that bad.
They're not that bad, but still, like, I get struggling with one of them. Okay, you can struggle with Hawaii or Fresno State, but both of them, like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree with you.
Such
The
a mixed
Hawaii
bag
game,
at this point.
the Hawaii game was unacceptable. I put them down so low for a long
Yeah.
time just because of that. And then I'm going to double back one more time on the flag planting thing. I'm going to say the same thing I said about the field rushes last week. More. I want all this. This post-game stuff is absolutely, like, I love it. Anything to me, like anything that gets the olds mad, like, I love it. I love it. Like when the old people get their newspaper out and start like getting, this is bad for college football. Give me more. Give me all of it. I love it.
So you're just all about like agitating the get off my lawn people.
Oh yes. I love it all. Like field rushes, court storms, post game like fights, like the coaches fighting post game in basketball too. Like give me that. Give me the flags being planted. Give me all this stuff, man. Like doxing people. I love all this crap, man. This is what makes college football and sports in general fun. I love it.
I will.
The
be
doxing
shocked.
stuff might be a little bit too far. I'll say that.
It's only a problem if people do something with it, right? Like they didn't.
Well,
do anything
people
with
will.
it.
There's crazy people out there, so yeah, they will.
That's true. There are crazy people out there. Zach, did you have something you were going to say about the flag planting stuff? You look like you want to say something.
I was just gonna say I think it's fine and I think it's fun. My issue is like, why is Florida planting the flag on Florida State? Like, Florida State is just. I mean, who wins a hypothetical, Purdue or Florida State?
Purdue. I think Purdue wins.
Which is crazy.
I saw somebody the other day that was talking about how Purdue would lose to Mississippi State. And they were like, yeah, the SEC is just that much better. I was like, you realize like Mississippi State lost by like 3 touchdowns to Toledo, right?
Yeah, they're bad.
Like
they're very bad.
Like I get it. Purdue has not had a good season at all. But come on, like Purdue.
We should really have a losers bracket between like Florida State, Mississippi State, Purdue, and then and Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Like have those 4 teams in a playoff for the worst teams in the Power 4.
Oklahoma State favorite. They have at least 3 wins.
Yeah.
Oh, Fisherman disagrees. He says Florida State beats Purdue. We'll need the bracket. We'll need the bracket.
I'd want to see it. Speaking of games that I would want to see, I know we talked about Michigan a lot today, but I would die for a Michigan-Iowa game right now. Like
that'd be so great.
It'd be such a good game. They're like the same team, I feel like.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we all put Michigan over Iowa in our power rankings.
I know, but we're all right next to they're right next to each other. So like we need to break it up a little bit. I would love to see that game right now.
Yeah, I couldn't put Michigan over Illinois because Illinois beat Michigan, and also Illinois is just like ranked and having a better season and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But like Michigan beat Minnesota. Michigan did lose to Washington, but Washington was at home. I think if Washington was on the road, they probably lost to Michigan there. Yeah, it's interesting.
Should we do some like season? Like, I feel like this is a good time to be like who you're most impressed with, or biggest surprise and like biggest disappointment this season. Because I really just want to talk about how disappointed I am in Nebraska and Wisconsin this year.
Sure.
I'm disappointed in them.
Let me do one thing really fast.
Okay.
David Greenshield, we appreciate you being here. He says Ryan Day must go. David, if you weren't here earlier, I'm going to do a video on that either tonight or tomorrow night, and I'll give my thoughts on that. But sneak preview, I don't necessarily disagree with you. Kent, why don't you give us who you are most disappointed in first, since you gave us a sneak peek there, and then give us I think I know who this is, who you're most surprised by.
Okay, I think that I'm most disappointed in Nebraska overall, because even though they made a bowl and they finally broke that streak, I thought that this team, and they've shown flashes of like how great they could have been, that I'm disappointed with only 6 wins. I thought that like 9 would have been really good for them, but 8 would have been like, okay, I expected them to be around 8. Like, and 7 would have been like, oh, we're kind of not doing that good. 6 is not great to me. I feel like they should have gotten way more wins with the talent they had. And then obviously, like, Indiana is the clear, like, most surprising team. Like, I still can't believe how well they played this year. It was a great year for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree. Zach, same thing for you, but you cannot pick any of the teams that Kent just said.
Oh, good, because I wasn't.
I'll take a different team. You can have Indiana.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm actually grateful for that because I agree with both of yours. I just Wisconsin for me is the most disappointing, and like Fickle's in real danger. They went 5-7 this year, and
broke the bowl streak.
Yeah,
the bowl streak is over.
And the battle for the axe was not a good it was not a battle. No, I mean they got decapitated by the axe, by the axe wielders. And if you look at their schedule next year, like you're staring at the barrel of maybe 4-8 if you don't improve. I mean, they get Alabama on the road. I think Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon are all on the schedule. Indiana's on the schedule. I mean, it's bad for Fickle. And so it was defense wasn't great. Offense was abysmal. You fired your one coordinator, and now your defensive coordinator looks like a fraud. That's to me, Wisconsin is easily my most disappointing. I think my biggest surprise is Illinois, and I think Indiana. There are whispers.
Did you pick them to have only 2 wins, Zach? I mean, only non-Big Ten knowers pick them to only have 2 wins.
I did not do that. But Illinois fans were always rejoicing when I picked against them, which I did a lot. So I did not have them making a bowl this year, and for them to go 9-3. I think is a significant. It's significantly better than I think anybody expected, and I think
that's false. They all expected this. They're telling me all about it today on Twitter. They all expected 9-3.
Okay, outside of Illinois fans, well, and even some Illinois guys like keeping it orange and blue, they thought 6-6 would have been a good season. 9-3 is fantastic, and they're ranked. I thought they outplayed their talent level, and I think it showcases again Brett Bielema is one of the best coaches in the conference.
I agree.
All right, you are on the train with me, Zach. Yes, Brett Bielema, one of the best coaches in the conference. I could not agree more. All right, I'm going to go a little bit off here. I think when you hear my reasoning, you'll agree with me on it, but maybe right off the bat, you won't agree with me with it. And these fans have not liked me all season. That's totally fine. I get it. But I think one of the teams I've been most disappointed in this season is Iowa, finishing 8-4 this season, bringing back, 9-10 starters on defense. This was a team that they lost 2 of those games because of their defense. UCLA and Michigan State, they lost because of their defense. Now, the Iowa State game, you can firmly put that on the offense. The offense scored 19 points in the first half and did not score the rest of the game. Cade McNamara was just bad. Ohio State, they lost that game. But this defense was supposed to be a very good defense this season, one of the best in the country once again, but they were not able to do so. I mean, there were people that were picking Iowa to possibly go 10-2 this season with the easier schedule that they had. But that's just kind of where we're at. That's what Iowa. I mean, I think if you're an Iowa fan, you would agree with me. This season was not what you had hoped or thought it would be. Mm-hmm. I met a lot of Iowa fans that said floor is 9-3. We're going to go at least 9-3. And I thought that was, realistic. But you lose a couple of them in this year that you shouldn't have lost. You lose the Iowa State game, that rivalry game. That's tough. Now, obviously, you beat Nebraska in kind of fantastic fashion there at the end of the year, so you're feeling better about it. They didn't shake your hand, and now, that's disrespectful and all that other stuff. It is what it is. But you get the win there, feel a little bit better about it. But overall, Iowa should have finished the season as a ranked team, and they might, but it doesn't look like it right now. And then my most surprising team, I think I'll actually go with Minnesota for my most surprising team. Their over/under this season was either 4.5 or 3.5. I can't remember, but it was low. It was low, especially coming out of the gate with that North Carolina game. I mean, everybody had like Minnesota and UCLA at the bottom of their power rankings right there at that point of the season. Everybody thought, oh, it's all over. Minnesota, they don't have it this season. PJ Fleck on the hot seat. To their credit, PJ Fleck fights back. Even though they lose that game to Michigan, they fight back. They beat USC. They go on a stretch here at the end. They beat Illinois. That was a big game for them. That was a big confidence booster. And then they come out and, you win by 3 scores over your rival for the Axe. Like, if you're a Minnesota fan, you're feeling pretty good about this season, especially with the over under that you came into at the beginning of the year. Was there anybody we missed to mention, Kent?
For me personally, is Michigan State, because I had $100 out on their over 5.5 this year, and all they had to do was win today, and they couldn't do it. I should have probably bet Rutgers to hedge it a little bit, but I didn't. I just went full on with my over under bet, and it went just under. They won 5 games, so I'm disappointed in them. Iowa, I kind of agree with what you say, because I saw a lot of people saying 10-2, 11-1, maybe even.
Yeah.
I think I put them at.
Thought Iowa's only loss would be Ohio State. Yeah.
Yeah, I had them at 11-1, and those two, I think that they still had a fine season, and it's whatever. You're gonna miss the playoffs, so what matters after that is not really important, I guess. But it's still disappointing overall because of what you just said. They lost to Michigan State and UCLA. That's not acceptable for Iowa. That should not have happened this year. So yeah, that's something I wouldn't have thought of, but I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I echo that. I think that's really good.
Boys, we have our first SEC fan in the chat. Welcome, Gary, Tennessee fan. Congratulations on beating Vanderbilt today. Didn't know if that would happen the entire time, but
yeah, he came to listen to people talk about a real conference.
Yeah, there we go. That's what he did. That's what he did.
What's up, Gary?
All right, guys. We normally aim for about 40, 50 minutes in these episodes. We're right at about 50 minutes. Any final thoughts on the power rankings or anything? There's some chatter in the chat. If I see anything to bring up here at the end, I will. But Zach, let's go with you first. Any final thoughts on this week in the Big Ten, the ending of the Big Ten season? We got Oregon, Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. Any final thoughts, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say I am excited. As much as it pains me that Ohio State's not going to be in it, I am really excited for Penn State to be going to Indianapolis. I think it's a big thing for them, first time in 8 years. And I am excited to see their defense go up against Oregon's offense. I would probably guess that Oregon will win by a couple scores, but it'll be an interesting matchup, and I'm curious what Kotelnicki draws up for that game. I want to think about that game more, but I'm excited for them to go to Indy, and I think it's going to be a fun matchup. It's a new matchup. I think it'll be really good.
Good stuff.
Why,
Kent.
Why did Indiana for sure not get in? What was the tiebreaker? I can't remember.
The tiebreaker, we looked it up last time, was total number of wins against, or total number of conference wins of your conference opponents.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense then. Because I wouldn't have minded either team. After Ohio State lost, I totally forgot if we talked about that. I couldn't remember that, and I never looked it up or cared to commit it to memory. But I thought that Indiana or Penn State going up against Oregon would be fun, just because we haven't seen it yet. When I first saw the graphic, I was kind of like, man, I wouldn't mind going to this game now. But to be honest, if it was Ohio State and Oregon, it's we already saw that. So it's less interesting. But now I think it was good for the conference overall, just to get a fresh matchup. And for me personally, like I said, I'm more excited about the game.
I agree. There was a question up here we can reference really fast. Benny, thanks for being here, Benny. Not seen a comment from you before, but we appreciate you being here. It says, where would you rank Max Brosmer in Big Ten quarterbacks? Obviously, I mean, I haven't put together a detailed list of like Big Ten quarterback rankings, but if I was just kind of going off the cuff, I'd probably have him around 5, 6, 7, somewhere in that range. I definitely would have Rourke, Howard, Aller, and Gabriel ahead of him, but I mean, he's right around Altmaier. He's right around. Yeah, I mean, I guess at that point, yeah, I would probably have him and Altmaier right there for 5th and 6th.
Yeah, I was thinking no less than 6.
What do you think, Kent?
I'm looking at all the teams right now, trying to put it together. I'll say 7 just to be different.
Yeah.
I
mean,
don't know.
Ethan Garber's had a good season coming on at the end of the year, but I mean, Max Brosmer kind of came on at the end of the year too, but I would say that Brosmer was a little bit more, well.
It's weird because like there are some good quarterbacks that just were on like bad teams too. Like I don't think Billy Edwards Jr. is like a bad quarterback. Like I think if he played for Minnesota, they would have had a similar season. So
good point.
I don't know if you can just say like, well, these guys were on bad teams. So like, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to say.
I think Kaliak-Manis deserves some props too. He doesn't have like the highest completion percentage and stuff, but he was really important for Rutgers, and he only took 16 sacks this year. I'm looking at the stats right now. That's less sacks than Will Rogers took. That's about the same amount of sacks that Curtis Rourke took.
Yeah, and I think we're forgetting about Alex Orji. Like he did not throw an incompletion today.
Wow.
Isn't that impressive from the quarterback spot for Michigan?
Yeah, he had
0 incompletion
too. That was something Will Howard didn't do. He had a 20-yard gain. Will Howard didn't have a single 20-yard. Well, I guess he had the screen pass to Henderson that was 24 yards, but yeah.
No, but yeah, I think I would put him around 6 or 7, I guess, without really digging into it.
All right, just making sure there's no more things to address before we get out of here. And then one last thing. Eric says, wonder what the college football playoff looks like now. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You have Miami losing. They're going to be knocked down. Ohio State loses. You know, we'll see how far they're knocked down. I think they'll probably be right around Georgia. I think they'll probably be one spot ahead of Georgia, maybe. But Tennessee, Georgia up there. I think they'll kind of be in that range. Notre Dame defeats USC today decisively, but it wasn't decisive all games. So do they get knocked for that? You know, well, I mean, not knocked, but does Ohio State get put behind them for that? Yeah, we'll see what happens. But any thoughts on the college football playoff rankings before we get out of here, guys?
It feels pretty good knowing that. I mean, to me, unless something crazy happens, like which the season's over now, so nothing really crazy can happen. But unless something crazy happens with the committee, it feels pretty good to have like 1/3 of the field be Big Ten teams, though.
Yeah.
Like we got 4 teams locked in there. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Miami loss, that secures, well, and the Clemson loss too. I think both of those losses, secure Indiana in, which I think was like maybe the one that we were most concerned about. And I don't think Ohio State's getting knocked out because of it. I think that I would be shocked if Ohio State ends up anywhere lower than 9th in the rankings. I am curious though. I'm curious where they'll put Ohio State in regards to Indiana.
I just don't think you can put Ohio State behind Georgia after Georgia did that against Georgia Tech. Like, I know Georgia came out with the win there, but like,
they should not have won
well
that game.
Yeah, they've struggled all year. I mean, Louisville pantsed Kentucky today, and I mean they should have lost to Kentucky, should have lost to Georgia Tech. Now, I hate doing this though because I'm like, but I don't really care right now about Ohio State because I'm mourning. Like, just kick them out of the playoff.
In this one episode alone, they moved up an entire power ranking spot. So
that's because Purdue is awful. Purdue is terrible. They had one more yard than Indiana had points on them today.
Yeah, it's true. No, I agree with you, Ken. I think with Clemson losing, that puts Indiana in a really good spot. They have a really good chance to make the playoffs now. South Carolina, I mean, if they're really SEC biased, they can move South Carolina up there, but I just can't imagine that would happen. I don't think they'll get moved ahead of Alabama. So, and did South Carolina, Alabama play this season?
Yes.
Who would care about that, JR? Be serious.
Oh yeah, South Carolina won by 2. You're right. This is a Big Ten show. We don't talk SEC.
Come on, man.
Sorry about you.
Alla
All
who?
All right, you can check out Kent over on Casual Big Ten on Twitter and on YouTube as well. You can catch Zach over on Big Ten Football Talk, and you can catch me here every Saturday night for Power Rank. Well, I guess I don't know if we're gonna do Power Rankings anymore because at this point, regular
This is
season's
it.
done.
This might be it, guys.
This might be it. We'll see. We'll let you know, though. We'll keep you informed. Sunday night, tomorrow night, recap of the week. We'll talk more in depth about each game. Monday morning, power ranking show for basketball. That will be going on, me and Kent. And then Tuesday, we'll have another show this Tuesday. We'll probably talk about the Big Ten championship game, that kind of stuff. Then Thursday, another basketball show. So we'll see
I
you
might
there.
be going on Zach's show, by the way, right, Zach?
Yeah. Monday night we're gonna record and it'll probably come out. Well, I was gonna say we might have more conversation about teams that impressed us this season, and
I like that.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
There we go. All right, everybody. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.